between scrolling through my Facebook feed and clicking link after link on YouTube, watching TV, reading all the news articles that come across my computer, I feel like there's a pressure now to have an opinion on virtually everything that's happening anywhere in the world at any level, right? Whether that's European politics or government responses to COVID, or the structuring of different financial systems, or the restructuring of different law enforcement systems, or the movement of different militaries. It feels like all of the things that are being done all over the world are something which I'm meant to have an opinion and that I have a right to speak into. And you know what that does for me, maybe similar for you, that elevates two things in particular in my life. As my opinions go up on all of those issues, what I find is that my anxiety goes up. Because there's more and more things which I'm taking on myself as burdens which weigh me down and get me stressed and get me riled up. My anxiety goes up and my arrogance goes up. Right? As I consider decisions being made in other parts of the world with information I don't have, but I assume that my opinion matters enough for me to start spreading it to other people. Right? My pride, my attitude that says, if I were there, I'd do a better job than that person. I know more than that expert who's making that decision. My anxiety goes up and my arrogance goes up. If you find yourself in any way like that, can I encourage you to just stop whatever it is you're doing now? Take a couple of minutes and read Psalm 131. It's only 3 verses. It's a couple of lines. Take the time to read it. If you think you don't have time to read it, this is the sort of psalm that will give you back time, right? You'll have more time in your day if you read this part of God's word and obey it than if you just skip over it now. So take the time now to look at it. Psalm 131. It's a song of ascent. What that means is it's one of the songs they sang as they approached the temple, as they came to God's place. It's one of the songs they sang to ready their hearts. And this particular one is of David, right? King David. Here's what he writes. He says, "My heart is not proud, O Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me." Right? David says, I do not concern myself with great matters or things that are too wonderful for me, right? So David realizes that there are those things which are within his sphere, within his realm to work on. There are responsibilities God has given him to do faithfully. And then there's the things that are beyond him. And he says, I don't concern myself with the things that are beyond me. Now, David's had an incredible story, right? He's gone from just being a shepherd who was faithful to the sheep, not worried about politics somewhere. And then when he was in a place where he saw God's people being taunted and God being taunted by Goliath, when he was in that space, he stepped up and was faithful in that space. When he was anointed king, he stepped up and he was faithful in that space. But he wasn't assuming the right to have opinions about things that were beyond him and getting himself stressed and getting himself prideful, concerned with things that God had not given him responsibility over. What was he doing instead? Verse 2, but I have stilled and quietened my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, put your hope in the Lord both now and forevermore. What's David done? Instead of choosing to have opinions on things that aren't his area of responsibility and that lifting his anxiety and that lifting his arrogance, what's he done instead? He's stilled and quietened his soul. He says, like a weaned child with its mother, right? A baby who's just been fed in its mother's arms is not worried about the decisions that mum is going to make. It just is embraced in love and trusting and relying on its mum. And David says, that's my relationship with God. When I'm in God's embrace and I know that he provides for all of my needs, I don't need to go worrying about the way God's running things that are out of my control. No, instead I focus on being diligent and faithful with the things in front of me. I don't concern myself with all of those other opinions and anxiety and arrogance. I let all of that go and I put my hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore. And so I just wonder what you're going to do today. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do today. When things come across my desk or come across my news feed that grab my attention and I think I could have an opinion on that, am I going to choose opinion and its accompanying anxiety and arrogance? Or are we going to choose to have a still and quiet soul, a humble heart that leans into God, trusts that God is looking after those things, and just puts our hope and our trust in him?